Hello everyone, GoldenNova here. It's Patron week, and that means I'm covering themes decided by the people who go the extra mile to keep this channel going. This month, we're revisiting the world of Dual Terminal once again, specifically the post-Duelist Alliance era. The Shaddolls are on the advance, looking to make contact with the Naturius Sacred Tree. The Yangzing have fallen to their corruption, doing their bidding like puppets on strings. And now, the current residents of this mighty forest must take a stand. Properly premiering in the February 2015 deck build pack, The Secret Forces, Ritual Beasts hit the scene as one of the gimmickiest sets ever printed.
In a world where light and darkness ruled, they chose the path of wind. In a world of dragons, spellcasters, and warriors, they walked the Gemnite path of pyros, thunders, and aquas. And in a world where Shaddol fusion existed, letting you use material directly from your deck, Ritual Beasts insisted on contact fusion.
Heck, they insisted on being a fusion deck despite being called Ritual Beasts. Suffice it to say, they're a bit of an iconoclast, and while I was deeply annoyed when sitting across the dueling table from them, I can't deny how fascinating they are to talk about. So, without further ado, let's go pet all these adorable critters, align our spirits to achieve our true forms, then see if there's anyone else who wants to get in touch with their wild side. It's time to break out those animal handling checks, cause we're talking about Ritual Beasts. So, what's the deal with Ritual Beasts? Well, they're a series of wind attribute monsters that are cleverly split up between a few sub-themes. We've got the Ritual Beast Tamers, who are all psychics and represent the druid/ranger of the dynamic. The Spiritual Beasts, which represent a bunch of types, taking on the animal companion role, and the Ritual Beast Ultis, showing off what the two can do when they combine their powers. But since all those names contain the core Ritual Beast wording, they all get to be under the same umbrella. Neat. They also all share a unique quirk. Each of the main deck monsters have a condition that allows them to only be special summoned once per turn each. So if you special summon an Apelio, you can't do it again for the rest of the turn. This might seem like a weird restriction in the age of special summon spamming, but it's actually kind of important. Our main focus is on contact fusion, banishing materials on field to get our ulti beasts. And those fusions can tag into those banished Ritual Beasts. So if you were allowed to do this an infinite number of times, things would get truly unreasonable. Let's kick things off with the Tamers, who largely focus on deploying our monsters to access our fusions. First up is Ritual Beast Tamer Lara, a level 1 monster with 100 attack and 2000 defense, and if normal summoned, you can target a Ritual Beast monster in your grave and special summon it. Now, we don't usually send our Ritual Beasts to the grave, though we're no stranger to it. So, any monster we set up in there, Lara can bring back to jumpstart our plays, making for an excellent card during the mid to late game. And don't think I didn't see what you did there, designers. You have a character named Lara raiding tombs. Or, I guess, graveyards. Very funny. Ritual Beast Tamer Elder is a level 2 monster with 200 attack and 1000 defense, and after you normal summon this card, you can normal summon a Ritual Beast monster during your main phase this turn, in addition to your regular normal summon and set. Now, this is probably the best card that you can see in your opening hand. It gets you another monster on board via normal summoning, meaning you can potentially go into one of your ultis without ever needing to lock off any of your special summons. The phrasing for its effect is also pretty interesting, and I think it's actually unique among the extra normal summon enablers. It's not an activated effect, and it's also not while this card is face up on the field, like Seraphinite. This means it's almost completely immune to any kind of effect negation in response to its normal summon, aside from just negating the summon altogether. Veiler, Imperm, Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Abyss, because by the time you get to the activation window, the effect is already applied, meaning nothing short of a skill drain that's already face up on the field is gonna stop this, that tricky old codger. I guess you really can teach an old dog new tricks. Like, remember Kamui, Hope of Gusto? This is him now. Feel old yet? Ritual Beast Tamer Wen is a level 3 monster with 1500 attack and 1000 defense, and if this card is normal summoned, you can target one of your banished Ritual Beast monsters and special summon it. This means Wen fills a similar role to Lara, but from the much more popular banished zone. This also means you have incredible coverage, because ignoring the deck, these Tamers cover summons from the hand, grave, and banished zone. This does sometimes mean you'll run into situations, especially early on, where you get the wrong Tamer at the wrong time. This doesn't make it a bad card though, far from it. More ways to access your monsters is invaluable, especially during the late game when you'll have your pick of the litter. Just know that it's not a question of if you'll brick, but when. And hey, would you look at that, we're talking about Zephyr again. Twice in 1 month, can you believe it? The same restrictions apply as with the Tellarknight ones. While they're in the scales, you can't pendulum summon, except to pendulum Ritual Beast or Zephyrs. Though, funny note, pendulum summoning your Ritual Beasts is actually kind of a bad move, because not only are you locking off their special summon from that point on, which you might need, but it also robs your Tamers of their effects because they only work on normal summon. Anyway, Ritual Beast Tamer Zephyrampilica is a level 3 monster with 1000 attack and 1500 defense and a scale of 1. When this card is normal or pendulum summoned, you can target a Ritual Beast or Zephyr monster in your grave, except a copy of itself, and special summon it, but destroy it during the end phase. So this effectively counts as another copy of Lara, and while the monster will be destroyed during the end phase, ideally it won't come to that. And honestly, the redundancy is more than welcome. Not only is it more opportunities to recover yarded Ritual Beasts, but it's another unique name which broadens our special summon options. And as long as we banish Zephyrampilica for the Contact Fusion, we never have to worry about it being stuck in the extra deck, so we can use it over and over again. And if that wasn't miracle enough, look, a penguin is airborne! Flightless bird my ass. Ritual Beast Tamer Zephyr is a level 3 monster with 1500 attack and 1000 defense and a scale of 7. If this card is normal or pendulum summoned, you can add a face-up Zephyr monster from your extra deck to your hand, except a copy of itself. Now, I might be singing a different tune when we do Zephyr Explained, but I just do not like this card in Ritual Beasts. It's just not good. I mean, its only target is Zephyrampilica. Maybe you can justify playing it as another Ritual Beast name to help your summon options, but that is the only reason you'd be playing this in this deck, hands down. You know, the lore is all about how Wen is an absurdly powerful psychic, especially when the eyes are open, so how are they worse than El Shaddoll Wendigo? Spiritual Beast Tamer Winda is a level 4 monster with 1600 attack and 1800 defense, and if this card in its owner's possession is destroyed by an opponent's card, you can special summon a Ritual Beast monster from your deck or extra deck, ignoring summoning conditions. This is probably one of the dopest cards you have access to, because getting immediate access to your ultis is pretty wild, as well as the added benefit of summoning out any other member of your theme from the deck if you need the utility. The other big things about this is that Winda here counts as both a Spiritual Beast and a Ritual Beast Tamer, which means they can fulfill either half of our Contact Fusion requirements. Though Winda is going to be in this section because they're a psychic, even though there's an argument for them to be in the next section because Winda's a party animal. Alright, now it's time for the other side of the coin, the Spiritual Beasts. Fun note, all of them are level 4 monsters, meaning we surprisingly have good access to the rank 4 toolbox. Spiritual Beast Apelio is a pyro monster with 1800 attack and 200 defense, and once per turn during either player's turn, you can banish a Ritual Beast card from your grave, and for the rest of the turn, all Ritual Beast monsters you control gain 500 attack and defense. Notably, this does not say currently control on there, so this boost is a lingering effect that'll give all your on-theme monsters a little boost even if they weren't around when the effect resolved. It's also not a hard once per turn, so multiple copies of Apelio can activate this in the same turn, stacking that bonus. Heck, you can use the effect, Contact Fuse into an ulti, then use it to tag back into Apelio, provided it wasn't already special summoned that turn of course, and get the boost again, at quick effect speed! Not to mention you're getting monsters back into the banish zone where they're most useful. Though you can also banish your spells and traps too, it's not picky. Except when it comes to the dry food, it'll still not eat that. What's going on here? Spiritual Beast Kanahawk is a thunder monster with 1400 attack and 600 defense, and once per turn you can banish a Ritual Beast card from your deck face up. And during your second standby phase after this effect's activation, add the card banished by this effect to your hand. Yeah, they printed an archetypal gold sarcophagus on a monster, but check this out, it's even better. Since we'll be tagging monsters in and out of the banished zone, Kanahawk is secretly a way to get more names into rotation immediately, though you can banish some support cards on the off chance the game goes long enough for you to pick them up. And like Apelio, this is a soft once per turn, so you could end up stacking a lot of delayed searches in a single turn. It may seem like an innocuous effect, but Kanahawk has proven that they're as good as gold. Sark. Or wait, should I make a GoldenNova reference here? Y'all play Pokemon, right? Spiritual Beast Petalfin is an aqua monster with 0 attack and 2000 defense, and once per turn you can banish a Ritual Beast card from your hand, then target a card your opponent controls and return it to the hand. Not too shabby, it basically turns any on-theme card in your hand into an immediate compulsory evacuation device against any card your opponent controls, not just monsters. And if the card you banished was a monster, it can actually be a way to enable your plays too, though like Apelio and Kanahawk, it's not picky about what kind of card you banish. Though I think it says a lot that between the 3 of them, Petalfin is the least busted out of the original trio. But don't take that as an insult, because this card still plays swimmingly. Spiritual Beast Rampengu is a beast monster, fittingly enough, with 1600 attack and 400 defense. And once per turn, you can banish a Ritual Beast monster from your extra deck and send a Ritual Beast monster with the same type as that monster from your deck to the grave. Now, this all feels a little counterintuitive. While we like having our cards banished, our fusions don't really do anything in there, and sending monsters to the grave is a bit off. But it does set up Lara's revival effect, as well as giving more fuel to Apelio. And even if we banish our fusions, we've got a pretty cheeky and efficient way to make use of them. And because you can banish any card from your extra deck, you can banish the Zephyr Pendulum monsters stuck in there, getting them back into rotation, which means Zephyr Wendy is even more useless. Damn, this little guy does everything. They're really good at Rampenguing up your strategy. Okay, that does it for the beasts, that does it for the tamers. Now it's time for the ultis, and these come with a lot of instructions. So, to reiterate, the ultis are contact fusions, so you don't use polymerization. Instead, you banish their material from the field face up and can't be special summoned by other ways, those material being a Ritual Beast Tamer and a Spiritual Beast. And also, they can return to the extra deck at quick effect speed to target 2 of your banished monsters, a Ritual Beast Tamer and a Spiritual Beast, and special summon them in defense position. You're not able to summon them in attack position, so no battle phase tomfoolery here, but the best part is that they don't have to tag into the monsters used as material for its summon. For instance, if you took a Lara and an Apelio to make an ulti, you can have that ulti tag out into a Wen and Petalfin. So the more names you have banished, the more targets you'll have for special summon tagging. And the faster you can set those up, the better. Oh, and also they're all level 6. Well, not all of them, there are some exceptions, but we'll point those out when we get to them. Ritual Beast Ulti Apelio is a pyro monster with 2600 attack and 400 defense, and if this card attacks, it's unaffected by other card effects until the end of the damage step. This is one of our deck's main ways of pushing for damage, as it has the highest base total of our base fusions. And while it's only a temporary towers, at least it'll be safe from battle step shenanigans. The only issue is that it's kind of a Nomba with its base form. See, it's unaffected by all card effects, not just your opponents. So if you have any attack boosts going on, like, say, the original Apelio, once you attack with Ulti Apelio, those all fall off. So if you want to make the most of those boosts, you're gonna have to find another vector for them. Still, don't let that one downside deter you. Its ability to quick swap means you can dodge anything outside the battle step, so despite it being a big ol' kitty, it'll be difficult to pause this monster's attacks. Ritual Beast Ulti Petalfin is an aqua monster with 200 attack and 2800 defense that can't be destroyed by card effects. And that's all. No other effects, no advantage to be gained, it's just a big wall. But in their defense, they're very good at being a wall. All destruction-based removal effects just bounce right off them, even your own, so torrential tribute shenanigans are technically available to you. And if your opponent leverages non-destruction removal, or can just attack over 2800, you can tag them into your component monsters to save some of your bacon. And if your opponent has a kaiju, then you're gonna have to cry about it, sorry about that. If you lack the gas to make a more impactful play, Ulti Petalfin is here to give you time to gear up, because that's their purpose. Ritual Beast Ulti Kanahawk is a thunder monster with 1400 attack and 1600 defense, and once per turn you can target 2 of your banished Ritual Beast cards, return them to the grave, and if you do, add a Ritual Beast card from your deck tier. And oh boy, this is the one I've been waiting to talk about the entire video. Like, look at how lame this card is. Its stats are low, and its surge effect requires a lot of setup, which is of course why this card was on the limited list for 5 years shortly after it was released. Yeah, despite never having been a highly tiered threat, this card by itself was such an annoying advantage engine, not to mention a huge drag on time. And it wasn't just because it lacked a hard once per turn clause either, because it was actually a lot more powerful than it looked on paper. Like, if you read it, it just seems to gobble up resources. You have to put 2 banished cards back into your grave, and keep 2 more banished in reserve just to tag out. But if you used those 2 effects at the same time, you could get yourself a 25% discount. It's really weird, but let me talk you through it. Say you have an Ulti on field, and a Rampengu, Lara, and a Pelio banished. Let's also assume that none of them have been special summoned this turn. You activate Ulti's search effect, targeting a Pelio and Lara, but then, once priority passes back to you, activate Ulti's tag out effect, targeting Lara and Rampengu. Now at this point you've double targeted Lara, but check this out. We resolve backwards, summoning Lara and Rampengu. Then you return all of the cards you targeted with Ulti's search effect to the grave. And because the effect says return them to the grave, not return both to the grave, you put a Pelio into the grave and still get that search. And funnily enough, because you can recycle your fusions, the limited status on this card didn't really stop you from doing this, but rather just made it more vulnerable to interruption. Though, now it's unlimited, so we're all clear on that. Ulti is integral to the theme, as it searches out literally all your on-theme cards, so it gets us what we need when we need it, and with the right sequencing, can be done multiple times per turn. Kana get a W in chat for that? Ritual Beast Ulti Pelio is where things go a little bit off the rail. They're a level 10 light psychic fusion monster with 3200 attack and 2100 defense, and require the usual Ritual Beast Tamer and Spiritual Beast material, but also needs a Ritual Beast ulti on top of that. Yeah, that's a 3 material contact fusion, and one of them has to be one of your extra deck monsters. A hefty cost to be sure. Another thing that's different here is that it's not able to tag out. But if summoned using its own summon procedure, it gains an effect where, during either player's turn, when a spell card, trap card, or monster effect is activated, you can banish a Ritual Beast card from your hand to negate the activation, and if you do, destroy it. And in a nod to its Naturia heritage, it's not once per turn, much like Beast and Barkion. Which means that once this is on the field, Pelio turns every on-theme card in your hand into an Omni-Negate. And people said Herald of Perfection was boring. But that gains this effect clause is a little weird. What's up with that? Well, unfortunately the developers were annoyingly thorough with their templating. Pelio is a viable summon off of Winda's floating effect, because it ignores summoning conditions, which would mean that in a vacuum, an Omni-Negate generator would only be a single destruction effect away. So when summoned by any way except Contact Fusion, it's basically a vanilla, which I guess is fair? Still, even if it just ends up being a gigantic vanilla, there's still a lot of value in that, especially because it'll be affected by a Pelio's boost. So this can make a great game ender, or a way to run over a huge monster. And honestly, using them that way is arguably more in flavor, because Basilio Drake didn't have any effects either. I love it. But wait, there's more. We've also got a Link monster to add to the mix. Ritual Beast Ulti Keemon Falcos is a Link 2 Wind Psychic monster with 1800 attack, requiring 2 Ritual Beast monsters as material. Ritual Beast monsters this card points to gain 600 attack and defense, and you can banish a Ritual Beast card from your grave to, immediately after this effect resolves, normal summon a Ritual Beast monster from your hand. And like its fusion counterparts, you can quick tag out into a banished Spiritual Beast and Ritual Beast Tamer. So Keemon Falcos changes the game plan a bit, which I'm certainly not complaining about. Its more lenient material is kind of like a parallel to Winda, where it takes any 2 members of the theme, not just one from each side. And because you're Link summoning, not contact fusing, the materials get sent to the graveyard. Which is a little sad, but Keemon's extra normal summon effect will let you banish one of them, which is nice. But this does mean that, especially during the early game, it's more difficult for Keemon to tag out by itself, so be careful where and when you go into this Link. But aside from that, it's fantastic. It's like having an Elder that lives in your extra deck, which is awesome, and gives you a little boost to beat over monsters, though Pelio is still going to miss out. And honestly, just having a monster you can Link climb with has its own world of utility baked right in. It's also probably the best material to make Ulti Pelio, because unlike the fusions, our Link monster lacks any summon restriction at all, so it can be revived with Wen and Lara. This is a huge boon to the theme, especially from the mid-game onward, and really helps the theme soar to new heights. That about does it for the 3-ring circus. Now it's time for the spells and traps. Ritual Beast Return is a quick play spell that banishes a Ritual Beast monster from your hand, then targets one of your Ritual Beast monsters that are either banished or in your grave and special summons it. I think this card is super good. Return can mobilize a Ritual Beast you otherwise wouldn't be able to, whether because your hand was too clogged with monsters, or you're taking advantage of a name you hadn't special summoned that turn that you otherwise wouldn't be able to, especially during your opponent's turn when you have a little less control of that. Though the hidden mode of this card is that you can special summon a Ritual Beast monster from your hand. All you gotta do is banish it for that cost, then target it, and bam, free hand summon. Though remember, with stuff like this, you do need to already have a legal target to activate the card in the first place. Your best target's probably gonna be Ultimon Falcos if it ends up in either of those zones, because it can turn into 2 more monsters. So if you find that you're losing control of a game, try resolving this to return things to normal. Ritual Beast's Bond is a quick play spell that banishes 2 Ritual Beast monsters you control to special summon a Ritual Beast monster from your extra deck, ignoring summoning conditions. This is the closest thing we have to a fusion spell, though can also summon our Link monster, and is very helpful in a number of ways. 1, if you have 2 Tamers or 2 Beasts, you can use them to summon any of your extra deck monsters despite the mismatch. 2, being at quick effect speed, you can use this on your opponent's turn after you've tagged out to allow you to tag back into a fusion when you otherwise wouldn't be able to. It's also another way to get Gaia-Pelio onto the board, though it runs into the same issues as when summoning it via Winda. And while it may stop that effect, you know what it doesn't stop? Using it during the battle phase to get even more attacks in. So it's not just any fake fusion, it's fake El Shaddoll fusion. Ritual Beast Ambush is a normal trap card that targets one of your Ritual Beast Tamers and one of your Spiritual Beast monsters that are either banished and or are in your grave, and special summon them in defense position. But after you activate this card, you can't special summon monsters except Ritual Beasts for the rest of the turn. Now, this is a fantastic way to regain board presence, getting back the component parts of an ulti summon. And while the Tamers won't be of much additional use since it's not being normal summoned, your beasts are brimming with useful effects. And because this is a trap card, you can just summon the ones with the best defense stats to keep them safe in case of a big offensive push. Alternatively, you can activate this during your opponent's end phase so that the once per turn special summon restriction will wear off almost immediately, giving you even more options during your turn. In fact, that's the best way to use it mechanically and flavorfully, as, like an ambush, you're just springing them on your opponent at the last minute. That's an ambush that's so on point, the only way it could be more in line with the story is if it let you summon El Shaddoll Wendigo. Ritual Beast Steeds is a normal trap card that you can activate if you control a Ritual Beast monster, and it destroys monsters on the field up to the number of Ritual Beast monsters you control. This card is actually incredibly legit. At worst, it's a 1-for-1 trade that doesn't target, and scales incredibly well with your Ritual Beast numbers. You can even pull some cheeky stuff off, because it checks how many you control at resolution, not at activation. So if you control one of your base fusions and your opponent agrees to let this card resolve, you can tag out your ulti on the same chain to increase the number of monsters you can pop. And because it doesn't target, not only does this bypass any targeting protection, it also means you can be very flexible with what you destroy once it actually resolves. Heck, it even says destroy up to, so you don't have to worry about being exact, though you are able to destroy your own monsters in case you splash anything in with floating effects. So it's no exaggeration that you can ride these steeds to victory. Alright, that's all of our cards, but what do we do with them? Well, it's not out of the question for us to win the game out of nowhere with sheer numbers. But it's not aggressively aggro. We don't have the ability to stack up a ton of big monsters efficiently, but we can knock our opponent sideways to give us an opportunity to lay on the damage once we get the all clear, so control is our floor plan, and our support card should help and complement our objective of being elusive before going in for the kill. But what can we play to help them out? Well, as with most control decks, I feel compelled to talk about Floodgates. Gozen is pretty good since almost all of our monsters are wind, but Rivalry is a no-go. But despite having many types, I'm apprehensive about the use of there can be only one, as there's enough overlap to make this a bit too risky. But the Floodgates I think fit us best are the ban list's latest offerings. We play very well with the Banished Zone, so Macrocosmos and Dimensional Fissure are pretty keen. And if you need to establish anything sooner, Dimension Shifter is also pretty neat. Emergency Teleport doesn't exactly have the same kind of impact in our deck that other decks do. I'm looking at you, punk. But all of our original Tamers are targets for this card, so if we need an extra body on board and we haven't used up their special summon that turn, this is certainly an option. Not to mention that this does open up the possibility for splashing in other level 3 or lower psychic monsters. I'm looking at you, punk? Win the Wind Channeler is a potentially good searcher. It doesn't search all of our monsters, most egregious being Lara, because it'd be great to revive the discarded Ritual Beast, but it does search Zephyrampilica to fill that role, and can potentially unbrick you with cards like Elder and Wen, or enablers like Kanahawk and Rampengu. Also, it's another flavor win. Because Win is Winda's little sister. Yeah, Charmers are dual terminal canon, ain't that weird? Since all of our beasts are level 4, we can dedicate some slots in our extra deck to rank 4s, and while of course we should keep an eye out for the staples, Abyss Dweller to stop graveyard hijinks, Tornado Dragon for back row removal, Baguska for the funniest skill drain ever, but when I see a Wind deck can make Xyz, I'm on the lookout for the crown jewel, Lightning Chidori. On summon, it tucks a set card your opponent controls to the bottom of their deck and can detach a material every turn to Ryza an opponent's face-up card, putting it on top of their deck. It's an excellent piece of removal to pressure your opponent and has a pretty nice stat line to boot. While Kanahawk is a gold sarcophagus on legs, that doesn't mean you shouldn't also play gold sarc. It's basically just a free extra activation of it to get your names into rotation. If you want to be extra wild though, try playing Necroface too. It's like your own exclusive version of the Ishizu tier mills. Both of you are going to banish, but you're more likely to tip over some names you'd like to see, while your opponent probably isn't playing Metaphys. And while we lack a good way to banish Necroface outside of Gold Sarc, we can always banish it while under our Banish Floodgates effects. As for a silly tech pick, and get ready to see this crop up in a lot of these sections moving forward, Time Rending Morganite. Now, like everything, this does lock off our ability to use hand traps, which is pretty crippling. But when it comes to talking about archetypes, there's a few things we need to keep in mind before throwing this in. 1. Does this deck have monster effects that activate in the hand? For us, no, so we're clear of that. I mean, we do want to run Dimension Shifter, but we're probably activating this before we even have the chance to play a normal spell card, so I think it clears. 2. Does our deck meaningfully care about normal summons? Yes, our original Tamers only trigger on normal summon, and even getting our beasts out of hand without using a special summon is great for keeping our plays open. 3. Will we benefit from the extra draws? Yeah, most of the time. After all, we are a control deck, so we want to see the game drag on as long as possible. This means more draw phases, which in turn means more gas. Plus, any additional Morganites we draw means we can keep our normal summon effects safe, which is just a nice bonus. And that's all I have to say about Ritual Beasts. This deck has got to be one of my favorites in terms of concept, mechanics, and design. It almost feels like a mischievous cousin of Gladiator Beasts, using Contact Fusion to run circles around our opponent rather than facing them head on. While a modern meta reappearance isn't very likely in their future, it's still exciting to see them in action, and is a pleasant brain teaser to pilot. And because they're a lore archetype, you never know when they're going to get that second wind. But now, I want to hear what you all have to say. Are Ritual Beasts the tag team of the century, or are they still a bit out of step? And which spiritual beast is your favorite? I'm partial to Rampengu myself, though it's a shame we haven't had an Apelio plushie yet, or a Petalfin one, or Kanahawk for that matter. This might be more of a difficult choice than I thought, but you know what isn't a difficult choice? Hitting that like and subscribe button so we can get to 50k for Akiza Explained. And also, make sure you share this video with someone you know who loves Yu-Gi-Oh! It really does a lot to help me out. Today's episode was brought to you by my lovely patrons, including this month's illustrious Quasar Commander Green Knight, Nebula Navigator's 3rd Dynasty, Adam Zajdel, Avi Chali, Kane Senpai, Cameron Berg, Chibi Gohan, Eric, Frankie, Genesis Yu-Gi-Oh!, Gloomba331, Great Big Pillock, Hairbear, Harry the Ominous Benefactor, Howling Zangetsu, Iskander711, Ironic, John Manji, Julius Sneezer, Larakia, Mana Charge, Marluxia is a Girl, Meteornus, Michael Madsen, Mighty Action X, Panther J, Rebel King Lucifer, Rem T Bright, RJ the Jank Monarch, Ruxith Sarani, Sophie, apparently, the Charizard Flame, the Fresh Prince of Conair, The Wizard Moose and Xander Wolfensberger, Cosmic Crusaders Ariel Kersey, Bear Shark Studios, Chaz Ghost, Chris Kessler, Corbinisms, Danny Bound, Emily, Eva Padilla, Herbal D, Jesus Garcia, Kale the Dragon, Carp, King Scarlet Yugioh, Lord Whoop-de-Doo, Manga Pages, Marion James E. Picata, Matt Simmons, Neo Trinity 7, Nitromo, put a card trooper up my ass, call that a card trooper an ass sandwich, but Noah Gent calls it lunch, I vote for Ophion to be banned, Sarah Losulci, Shooting Star 3300, Star-Lord 777, Super Purd, Tucker Ordorn, and the legendary Raven, as well as the wonderful Starlight Explorers you see on screen now. I'm only able to continue doing this thanks to the support of these lovely people, so if you'd like to be a part of these credits, help me in my journey to cover all of Yu-Gi-Oh's archetypes, and get all my videos just a little bit early, please check out my YouTube membership or Patreon links in the description to see if I have anything you'd like on offer. And if you want to see another video about a famous contact fusing deck, check out this video I made covering Gladiator Beasts. And if you want to see two Yu-Gi tubers going at it, check out Noah Jenkinai's latest series Progression Polls, where your voice shapes the format.